I'm always on a constant world tour, and I'm having a wonderful chance to meet with some of the educators, politicians, business community, and some of those in the medical professions. We're talking a lot about nation building and addressing issues of social welfare. So here in Perm, I'm doing something quite similar. I'll be meeting with some of the professors, talking to some of the politicians, speaking with some of the business community about principle-centered leadership and addressing crime, drug abuse. I've found the people in Russia in general to be very fascinating. About 27 years ago, I was visiting this part of the world. And so 3 years ago, I came back again. So it's like an old friend coming back. Of course, the whole world has changed a lot. But I think people are becoming much more aware. They're trying to look closer at some of the needs of the people. And I think the leadership is noticing how complex trying to solve these issues are. When we talk to some of your leaders, we have shared with some of them some of the books that we've written also. We've written over 13 books in 12 different languages. And my books sell most in English and Russian more than any other languages in the whole world. Many of them I've given personally to presidents. Some are used in universities. We're trying to focus on mainly 4 basic things. We stress first that a leader must have good character. Second, should be very competent. Third, should be compassion. And last, 4th, should have courage. We say the 4 C's in that order. Real power is when you can empower others. The most powerful people do not just use people to make things happen, but they make things happen for the people. One should sacrifice their own selfishness. See, when a leader is only full of personal greed, they will be successful but very, very short term. When a leader does not have good character, it will affect. It's logical. A leader can be trained, but education that doesn't focus on ethics is poor education. Science that doesn't focus on humanity, politics that doesn't focus on principle is also poor. And religion that doesn't focus on real love and peace is also. So the education should be holistic. It should improve on the quality of life for the individuals. Right now, other than France, Russia takes more alcohol, has more alcoholic problems than any country in the world, has some of the highest divorce in the whole world. These are serious relationship problems. Every year, 14,000 women are killed by their husbands or by their boyfriends in Russia. Well, the issue is more, unfortunately, it's more on the men, because the men are in charge. We as men, whatever country we're in, we have more responsibility. Well, it's a problem in America and many of the third world countries especially. Many countries spend less than 3 or 5% of their gross national product for education. Let me give you a quick example. Worldwide, the world spends about $30,000 to train, educate the average soldier. Only like about $500 or $600 to educate the average child. So we're so much focused on defense and war, and not so much on education. Tonight I'll be speaking later to businessmen about what is the number 1 business in the world. What makes more money than anything else is drugs, and second is defense. We're talking about weapons. So we are a global community that's intoxicating ourselves while increasing our ability of how to kill each other. How a person spends their money, or how a nation or how a world spends their money, tells you what their priorities are. So our priorities are not so much in character education, but more in intoxication and war. No problem. The problem, though, is that there should be a healthy balance. Look at how many hospitals right now in Russia do not have proper medicine. There's a need for leadership to be caring. Like I was saying, Russia, America, and South Africa have more of their citizens in prison than any other countries in the world. So in many ways we need to educate people properly, provide more basic necessities for them. This helps to take away from some of the atmosphere that produces criminals. America is worse. It has more of its people in prison than any other country. You know, every week or so I'm in a different country, and I oversee many social welfare projects around the world. Schools, hospitals, all kind of cottage industries, small-scale industries, helping people in the villages. So I was doing this also in Nigeria, and the people appreciated this so much. And then some years back I was coordinated. But I do this work in many countries. I am like 3 people in one. I'm American, trained as a psychotherapist. I'm a African king, and I'm like an Indian guru or Swami. I'm going on 54 years old. Because I live a very simple and pure life. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I'm vegetarian, I'm a celibate, I don't take any intoxication. Well, I think the fact that my books are so famous all around the world shows that my insights are appreciated very much. I think the fact that I can know so many people in different parts of the world helps me to identify like an international citizen rather than just one particular country. It's like here in CIS, I have many students, as I do in many places in the world. And we're all about trying to do things to help in raising consciousness. Real life is being able to help others to enjoy life. Unfortunately, most leaders are usually full of greed and selfishness. Most problems are a crisis in leadership. Now we have problems of religious fanaticism, threats of nuclear and biological war, increasing crime, drugs. All of these are problems that have to do with leadership. The common people will normally follow whatever patterns and barriers that leadership creates. And that's why we said first, leaders should have good character. See, we should be ready to be the change that we expect to see in others. I'll give you a quick example. We can't have a good marriage if we're not a good partner. We can't have a good neighborhood if we're not a good citizen. We cannot be a good leader if we're also not a good follower. And last, we can't really have disciplined children if we're not disciplined ourselves. So each person should be the change that they expect to see. Because what you reward, you get more of that. We must learn how to love the good, respect it, and honor the good. Now people mainly want immediate sense gratification rather than enduring happiness. Immediate pleasures are often very self-centered. Enduring happiness involves healthy relationships. So it's very simple. Most people are focused more on lust rather than love. Even when we so-called love, we are looking for what we can get out of the relationship. That's also why one of the reasons why divorce is so much. Because people are not communicating on a deep enough level. You know who commits suicide more than anyone else? Some of the rich and famous. You know who have more depression? Some of those who have so much. I know so many rich people, extremely rich people, who hate themselves and life is miserable for them. Now obviously people need basic things, but the happiest people are not those who are just after material commodities. It is those who have a rich heart, internal relationships. Because ultimately, everything we have materially, we're going to lose it at some point. When we die, it goes. But it's good to have both. But of all, it's better to have the internal nourishment. I would like to remind us there are many problems in the world today, but we all have ability to use our free will and make the right choices. And since we should consider there are many, many different people in the world, many races, but there's really one race, the human race. There's many different, religions, but in one sense there's just one God. Different ways to serve that one God. And there's many, many different languages. But really there's one language, because we all have certain universal needs. That one language is the language of the heart. We're all starving for love, for happiness, security, and protection. So at this time in the world when there are so many attempted wars that may go on, we need to focus less on greed and more on selflessness and love, so that more cultures, religions, and races can be able to see their common ground. This is why I'm on the board of many international organizations, political, educational, and spiritual, because it takes this kind of approach to create a whole person and a better world. This is why I'm meeting people in so many different sectors here in Perm and other parts. This is why a few days ago I went to the orphanage here. I've seen some of the top people, elites in the country. A real leader should be like a father and try to know people nicely and try to care for them. And it's an important time now because we know the schools have just started here again. The elections will be going on soon. Two very important events. We have to make good choices.
Hare